Mr Speaker, I say to the member who's just resumed her seat that I would put Labour's economic track record after 9 years in government against the 2.5 years of this national government's any day of the week, at any time that she chooses. Because Labour in government delivered surpluses year after year and we paid back the debt. By the time the National Government came into office, the government's net debt was nothing. The government didn't have any debt when Bill English became the Minister of Finance because Michael Cullen cleaned up the mess Bill English made last time he was the Minister. When Bill English was last the Minister of Finance, we had a huge mountain of debt. When he got turfed out in 1999, Michael Cullen picked up that mess and he paid back the debt. Paid back the debt and kept the books in surplus. What did the National Government say? What did the National Opposition say about that? They said, we should have been giving away tax cuts year after year after year. Those were the Bill English's words. He said they would have had tax cuts under National year on year on year. All that would have done is put us in the cart that we're in now years and years earlier. Years and years earlier. But in fact the Labour government didn't do that and we left the government's accounts in a very, very good state. When Bill English first became the Minister of Finance, he said, what did he say? He said, this is the rainy day that the government has been saving for. Not a national government, Mr Speaker, but a Labour government. It was the Labour government that saved for the rainy day, and within 2.5 years, now the National Party, the National Government, have flushed it all down the toilet, and now we're looking at massive deficits every year with no end in sight to the massive deficits that this National Government is clocking up. No end in sight to that. Debt will continue to grow under Bill English's economic mismanagement simply because this government doesn't have a plan. It doesn't have a plan for the future of this country. Mr Speaker, New Zealanders are struggling out there and they're willing to go and do the hard day's work. They're willing to do the hard graft that it's going to take to get ahead. But what they want from the government is some hope. They want some hope. They want hope. Sorry, what was that? Oh, look, Georgina Tehugu's looked into her crystal ball and she's already determined the result of the coming election. Well, I say to her that I'm quite happy for her to come to Rimutaka any time. She can come to my electorate any time and she can tell the parents in Rimutaka and my electorate any day of the week why they're paying more for their early childhood education. She can come and tell them why her government wants to hock off the state assets that the government has got left. She can come to my electorate and tell them why her government wants to privatise ACC and rip into KiwiSaver yet again a national government putting the boot into a very good retirement savings scheme introduced by a Labour government. She can come to my electorate and tell them why they're going to close IRL, Industrial Research Limited, which this government are taking away from the Hutt Valley. One of the most successful enterprises in the Hutt Valley, and this government are going to take it away. She can come and explain why they're going to close the Avalon TV studios in my electorate. Suddenly we're getting nothing from the government benches. Perhaps you'd like to come and say why there are no night classes left in the Hutt Valley whatsoever. None at all. Not a single night class left in the Hutt Valley under this government. Roading in the Rimutaka electorate has been shoved way down the list, so that we face the real prospect in the Hutt Valley that we will not have any further major roading upgrades in the Hutt Valley for decades to come under this government, so that Stephen Joyce can fund his holiday highway up north so that he can get to his batch a little bit quicker. Mr Speaker, New Zealanders want some hope for the future. The people of the Hutt Valley, where I live, want some hope for the future. They are willing to go out and do the hard work. They are asking this government, where are these jobs that the government wants to push them out into doing? Some of the people in my electorate are already working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And others are coming into the electorate offices, into work and income, and they're saying, I've lost my job, I want another job. I don't want to go on a benefit, but there are no jobs out there for me to get. They want to work. but there are no jobs there for them to take because the government have no plan. 2 days in a row I have sat in question time and I have listened to the Prime Minister being questioned, and he's been asked by Jacinda Ardern 2 days in a row what the initiatives are that the government put in place in this year's budget to create jobs. And he can't name them. He cannot name them because there aren't any. Because the government doesn't have any idea about what it can do to actually start creating jobs. And the government is missing opportunities here. And they have because they don't have a vision or a plan. Christchurch was faced with a great tragedy and still is faced with a monumental task of rebuilding. But it creates a huge opportunity for us as well. Out of that tragedy there comes opportunity. And one of the opportunities that comes out of that is to upskill our workforce and to train new apprentices. To train new apprentices so that we deal with skills shortages that we have in this country. Does the government have a plan for that? No, they have no plan for that. Instead, John Key's talking about importing skilled labour from overseas, getting people to come in from Australia to do the task of rebuilding Christchurch. I say that we have people here in New Zealand crying out for work and crying out for training opportunities. Why not get them to do the rebuilding in Christchurch? Why not build training and apprenticeships into the rebuilding of Christchurch? That would be a huge opportunity for New Zealand, but this government have no plan to capitalise on that. What was John Key's original plan for jobs? Well, we saw the Job Summit after the last election because John Key wanted to have his photograph taken. He wanted to be seen to be doing something about jobs. What was the one big idea that came out of John Key's Job Summit? A cycleway. A cycleway. Now, I'm a cyclist and I like cycling quite a bit. I like the idea of having better cycling in New Zealand, but it's not a massive job creator. And yet that so far seems to be the only job creation scheme or job creation idea that's come out of this national government. That's the only one. How many jobs have resulted from John Key's cycleway? This was a government that said they were going to focus on the things that matter. Well, I'll tell them what matters. What matters is jobs. What matters is the rising cost of living, people not being able to pay their power bills. What matters is giving people hope. And on all three of those fronts, this government are failing dismally. I want to turn now to ACC, where Nick Smith has been frantically trying for the 2 years that he has been the Minister of ACC to talk up a crisis, to pretend somehow that ACC is fundamentally broke and broken. It is not. It is not fundamentally broken. It never has been. What this government have been all out to do is soften ACC up so that they can privatise it. And that's what we've seen in the last few weeks with their talking up, privatising the work account. And when I asked Nick Smith about that today, I said, will this lower cost to employers? He said yes. I then asked him why. He said, I don't know. That was effectively what Nick Smith said. He didn't know because actually there is no scheme anywhere in the developed world that offers the same cover that ACC does for cheaper. ACC is already the cheapest scheme of its type in the world, and the government want to privatise it because they think that in addition to providing the cover, they can squeeze a profit margin out of it. The only way the private insurance industry will squeeze a profit margin out of it is by declining more claims or reducing entitlements or increasing the cost to employers. They can't offer the same level of cover without reducing entitlement or increasing costs, and they've even said that. That's not my words. Those are the private insurance industry have come out and said they can't do it. And so what's their answer? Well, they don't want ACC to compete with them because they know they can't do it as cheaply as ACC can. They don't want to compete with ACC. They want the government to block ACC out of the market so that they can increase the cost to employers and not be undercut by ACC because ACC's cheap, because it's good, because the system is fundamentally sound and has been all along, despite the fact the government have been trying to talk up a crisis in it. Mr. Speaker, the New Zealand public are looking for hope. They are looking for a plan. They are looking for evidence that this government have some idea about how they're going to get New Zealand out of the economic mire that it's in at the moment, and they're not seeing it. What they're seeing is a government interested in themselves, interested in promoting their own interests, the interests of their mates, a government with no plan.
Very good speech. Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr. Speaker.